everybody, it's Marianne at Sew Right. Today I'm also doing buttonholes. So I'm gonna be working on a Husqvarna Viking. This is the Opal 690. What I'm going to do pertains to not every Viking machine. However, going back at least 20 more years, this buttonhole foot is absolutely wonderful. And this is going to get plugged into the machine, but I'm going to show you how to use that. But what I want to start with first is when you're going to do buttonholes, if this was my blouse, I would mark chalk line, not pens. I did pens so you could see. So you would mark a line going up and down. I like to do a 1/4 inch from the edge of my fabric, the straight line this way. Then I mark lines going across of where I want my buttonholes. The length is irrelevant. It's where it's going to start is the important thing. Now, when you also make a garment or use buttonholes, inside your facings, you're going to have interfacing, always, because your fabric needs support. Now, many years ago, I was watching a sewing show, and the woman that was teaching, it was her show, was Sandra Betzina. She's a nationally known sewing educator, and she gave a tip on doing buttonholes. She said besides the interfacing that's inside, she puts tearaway stabilizer underneath. This is only temporary, so it gives the fabric more support. But what it also helps is that if your fabric had some sort of fibers that stick out, when it's feeding through, those fibers could get hung up on your feed dogs, where when the stabilizer is beneath it, there's no obstruction with the fibers coming from the fabric, so it's going to feed nicer. So this is going to go underneath besides. Now on the Viking machines, there is, we're going to plug this in. Let me plug this in first. I'm going to put the foot on, it snaps on, and then this is going to get plugged in underneath. Some of the machines, the newer ones, they're plugging in the back. But this particular way I'm doing it goes back since 1999, when Designer 1 came out. And on this wheel is a red line, a red area on the red part and a white line on the black part. And you're going to line them up that they're centered together. When I do go to move my fabric under here, that red wheel could move. So before I start, I would get the fabric into position and then I'd realign those markings. Because I plugged in the foot that goes on with here, I plugged it in. On the screen, we now have the size of a buttonhole. So you would touch in here what size buttonhole you need to do. Now, if you, on your Viking machine down here, there's a ruler. And if you didn't know the size of your button, you could take your button and place it right on that ruler and measure. So this is coming up that it's just about a 22 millimeter buttonhole that I need to do. So here on the screen, I'm going to put in a 22 millimeter. Now it knows how big to make the buttonhole. But what I should do before any of this is tell the machine what kind of fabric you're working on. So when I go into the sewing advisor, I would tell it, am I working on a woven light, woven medium? Right now I have the X in the woven medium. This is very important because it's going to adjust your tensions and your foot pressure and the density of the buttonhole. Once I choose the fabric and I go to technique, I can choose buttonhole, because when I do that, I'm going to go back to the other screen, it's going to choose the right buttonhole for that fabric if I didn't know what one to choose. And then again, I would, no, not, that's tension. Here, I would adjust my buttonhole to the size that I want. So before I said size 22 millimeter. Once I've done that, I'm ready to start the buttonhole. Okay, now that I told the machine what size buttonhole that we're going to do, which is a 22 millimeter, I've positioned my fabric under here, and I'm lining up my needle with the cross mark this way, left to right, and also the mark that goes this way. So I'm going to put my needle right around this spot here, and I'm going to line that up. And now that I move my fabric under here, again, I'm going to readjust my wheel so everything is center. I'm going to put the foot down. It moved a touch, that's okay. But now I can see in here exactly where it's going to start, right inside there. And I'm going to start my buttonhole. Remember, I have tear away underneath that's only temporary, and I have interfacing in between the layers. So now I'm going to start the buttonhole, and it's going to go the whole thing from start to finish. And I don't have to wonder when do I take my foot off the pedal. And if you ever watch a buttonhole being done and it's doing a straight stitch first, that straight stitch is going to keep your buttonhole from stretching out of shape. And now it's going to finish. On this particular model, it trimmed my thread, and there's my buttonhole. My stabilizer is only temporary. I'm going to pull this away, and I'm going to use my seam ripper to open my buttonhole. Sandra Betzina said she uses seam ripper. She doesn't use that chisel. Whenever I use the chisel, I always ended up hitting my threads and broke or it ruined my buttonhole. So I go here, go this way. And it's a good practice to take a straight pin and put it this way. So as you're pushing, you don't push too hard and break your bar tack. Only once did I ever break a bar tack. And I said words truck drivers don't say. See you again in my next class, and have a good day. Bye.